I'm still doing the dance, baby. I've been doing the dance all freaking night. What a day in the United States of America, and we are so back, baby. Welcome back to the Isabel Brown Show on this Wednesday, November 6th, after Election Day 2024. I don't even know how to start the show today other than thanking all of you for your prayers last night during our prayer vigil, going into election night, for getting out the vote and voting, for continuously doing everything you can to support the show and independent creators, because Elon Musk said it best last night. We are now the media, which absolutely impacted this last election more than anything else. I am completely blown away by the impact we were able to have last night in the United States, and it is only going to get bigger. We have a lot to talk about today as we celebrate this incredible victory of Donald Trump's historic win for the 2024 election here in the United States of America. We're going to be breaking down a whole lot of information from last night's results today on the show. We want all of your guys' feedback and thoughts related to what happened in our live chat throughout the show today. And you guys know the drill, especially if you are new around here. Don't forget to smash that follow or subscribe button so that we have a chance to get to know you better in our amazing community. And you guys can have a chance to connect directly with each other in our live chat throughout the show today as well. We are live across platforms: YouTube, Rumble, Locals, Getter, Instagram, and Facebook. We might have a couple of little technical difficulties today. Our YouTube sent us to a different place than what we told it to, but I think we figured it out, and you guys seem to have found the right place, which is great. And it looks like we might have a tiny lag coming on Instagram, but if that ends up happening, you guys know the drill. Just leave the stream and come right back. We will get it completely resolved and keep doing the dance throughout the entire day today. What a freaking night last night was. As you guys know, we went live for about an hour right as polls were starting to close on the East Coast to just pray for our country, to pray for our nation's leadership, for one another, for wisdom and discernment to do what's right in the world, particularly in the West. And it was a very beautiful opportunity for us to come together and really have an opportunity to focus on the bigger picture of Election Day, that even depending on what the results look like, if Kamala Harris were to be the president-elect or Donald Trump were to be the president-elect, the work really starts today. And this greater culture war that we are fighting has never been more important than it is today. I said yesterday that I meant that real work starts today, and I mean it. We are rolling up our sleeves here on the Isabel Brown Show to have an even bigger and more impactful year next year than we did even this year, with our content and our community, with you guys across all of our platforms and the tens of millions of people that interact with our content every single month. But there are a few things from election night that I think we really owe it to ourselves to focus on today, to learn from what happened last night specifically. I was watching from home alone actually last night, which was incredibly odd because usually on election night I spend time with my family, with my loved ones. I was really hoping to spend election night with my husband last night because it is our first election day together, but he ended up having to work for his job all night long. His boss was streaming all night long, so it was literally me and my dog sitting on the couch last night FaceTiming my dad, who is probably the only other person in my family as into politics as myself. Shout out Rob if you happen to be watching, for like 6 hours, and we just watched all of the results come in. I was 100% sure, based on what they were telling us for weeks, if not months in advance, we were not going to have an answer for who won the election last night. But then things just looked so overwhelmingly blowout landslide in favor of Donald Trump that it kept going and going and going. And I said to my dad, particularly related to Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, the fact that they've counted 85% of the vote, 90% of the vote, 93% of the vote, they really can't stop counting now and do this whole stop the count thing, or we have to wait overnight for more mail-in ballots, or it's going to look incredibly suspicious. So I think they have to call this election tonight, and that is precisely what they ended up doing. We're going to look exactly at the election results map as it stands right now at about 4 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States today. The AP Elections Board has officially called the race for Trump. They were kind of late to do that last night. Decision Desk was the first group to officially call it. Then Newsmax called it. Then Fox News called it. And then all the other networks started kind of crumbling. AP was kind of late to the game, actually. But they currently have Donald Trump sitting at 292 electoral college votes. Interestingly, they have yet to count Alaska, which is an additional 3. So Donald Trump really has approached this 300 electoral college vote threshold that so many people thought would never be possible in this fight against Kamala Harris. Just as I suspected last night, and I warned you guys of this last night during our little what to expect tonight stream, the vote came down to exactly what I thought it would yesterday. It came down to Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. And different outlets were calling those at different times. Most outlets ended up calling Georgia or North Carolina first, then Pennsylvania, and that pretty much secured the 270 vote threshold for Donald Trump. They later ended up calling Wisconsin for Donald Trump as well. Today, they called Michigan just a couple of minutes ago, actually, in the grand scheme of things, for Donald Trump, which was completely unexpected. I don't think anybody was expecting that to happen based on polling going into Election Day. And it looks like they're going to have to call Nevada for Donald Trump. They've got about 85% of votes counted in Nevada, and he's leading by a substantial margin, and Arizona, which I was not expecting necessarily for Donald Trump. So we're looking at a complete blowout of not 1, not 2, not 3, but all 7 battleground swing states for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris has now actually called and conceded the election. She was kind of refusing to do that all morning, and everyone was wondering where she was. Total side note, it was completely unprofessional and rude of her, in my opinion, very akin to Hillary Clinton in 2016, to just straight up say nothing to her crowd of thousands of supporters that had turned out to their election night watch party at Howard University in Washington, D.C. last night. She didn't speak last night. She hasn't addressed the nation or any of her supporters today, but we do know that she has given a phone call to Donald Trump as of this afternoon. Everyone's been wondering where the heck she is. There's a whole lot of jokes that she is hungover somewhere. I don't think anyone would blame her for that necessarily, but I do hope that people, especially those who have fervently supported her, have an opportunity to hear directly from her about next steps and what that looks like for the next trajectory of her career. But again, if we look at this map, I want this to really be an image that is seared into your brain. This is not just a win for Donald Trump. And I think everyone from the pollsters to the pundits to all of the professional news outlets were telling you that if Donald Trump could pull off a win for this election, it's going to be extremely neck and neck. It's going to be a historically close election. We might even, many people said, have our very first tie in the Electoral College ever, where this would have to go to the United States House of Representatives. How crazy would that be? This is not just a win. This is a freaking blowout middle finger, not to Kamala Harris, because I think it's much bigger than that, but to radical leftism everywhere. Everywhere. The fact that all 7 battleground swing states, all of them, went sizably, not closely or narrowly, sizably to Donald Trump means that Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, all of the voters in these states gave the middle finger to abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy. These voters gave the middle finger to child gender transition and are protecting their children's innocence from creepy adults who want to prey on them and maybe even take custody from their parents away when their child now is gaslit into wanting to transition. All of these voters said enough to the rampantly rising violent crime we've seen, largely from the millions upon millions of people that have been allowed to come into our country and handed a smartphone and a blank check scot-free over the last several years under this administration. We are saying no to the rising levels of human trafficking in this country. We are saying no to Bidenflation. We are saying no to all of it. This is a rejection, not of Kamala Harris per se, although I'm sure that's a huge part of this, and we'll get into a little bit of that with how she compared to Joe Biden's performance against Donald Trump a couple of years ago. But this was a rejection, resoundingly from the rooftops, from the American people, of radical leftism everywhere. And not just in those 7 battleground states, but in the national popular vote as well. Fun fact, it has been 20 years. It has been since 2004 that a Republican candidate has won the national popular vote. And no one, no pollster, no pundit, no one suggested that that was even within the realm of possibility for Donald Trump. So this is a sizable, seismic cultural shift that we are watching happen in the United States right before our very eyes today in real time. And I think it's going to have huge ripple effect ramifications for years and years and years to come. So with that said, there's a few key takeaways if we zoom into the results from last night that I really want to remember and focus on today as we pick up the torch and continue the fight today and tomorrow and the next day and on Inauguration Day and all of the days moving forward from there. Because as we talked about last night, this is not just a political battle to get the right person sitting in the Oval Office of the White House of the United States of America. We are fighting a culture war that is so much bigger than a congressional majority. It is so much bigger than who is the president of the United States or what particular policies they are pushing for. We are seeking to change day-to-day life for Americans for the better, to revive Western civilization to the greatness we know it can be for the next generation and the next one and the next one and the next one after that. All of these key takeaways really matter, and I'd be really curious to know what you guys think as well. So feel free to weigh in the chat throughout our conversation today. But first and foremost, let's just get this out of the way because I am so excited, beyond excited. Not in a gloaty way or like a I told you so way, but let's just say I told you so, to talk about specific voter demographic breakdowns. It turns out when you attack Americans based on their God-given identity or their most sacredly held values, it's going to massively backfire. And the biggest possible example we could have had of that going into this election was young voters. How many times have we seen clips of Kamala Harris go insanely viral over the last several years, back to when she was a member of the United States Senate even, saying that all young people are just stupid. They're so stupid. That's why we give them resident assistance and we don't let them have equal rights necessarily to the rest of United States adults because young people are just so stupid. Gee. I wonder how that's going to turn out for you, Kamala Harris. We said months and months and months ago. And you guys know I am nothing if not the apologist for Gen Z in particular and the massive cultural paradigm shift that we are going to see with more of us growing up and coming into adulthood in March. Especially if you guys are new here, you might not know, I wrote a book called The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America, that we published in March, and we went on the rounds of all of the cable TV networks, all of the print press media, etc., lots of radio shows. And I was actually laughed out of the room several times because I made the argument that Gen Z is the most conservative generation America has seen since World War II, that we are overwhelmingly culturally conservative, and we are only going to become more politically conservative over time as well. Literally, news hosts laughed me off of the set and said, I just don't share your optimism, but okay, that's cute. Well done, Isabel. Well, it turns out that was correct. And in the biggest I told you so to everyone who needs to hear this, again, not in a vindictive way, but in a we need to be paying attention to the shifting cultural paradigm of what's happening with the next generation in America way. So please hear me when I say this time. According to some exit polling, this one's from Fox News in particular, Kamala Harris is only projected to win the youth vote by less than 8%. Less than 8% is the victory of the youth vote for Kamala Harris in this presidential election. For comparison, because this matters, Joe Biden in 2020 won the youth vote by over 25%. That is a 17 percentage point net positive swing toward Donald Trump in 4 years. In just 4 years. And honestly, it's not even just toward Donald Trump. That's a swing of grassroots groundswell support from young people toward conservative values, toward limited government, toward a unity party, toward taking responsibility for your life and making America healthy again. Young people gave the middle finger last night to radical leftism, to big government, to big business, to big tech, to big pharma and big food. We said enough. And now Kamala Harris is projected to take the youth vote by less than 8% when all is said and done and the rest of these votes are counted. And for the record, most of Gen Z still can't vote yet. Generation Z is a group of Americans born between 1997 and 2012. So we're talking largely about teenagers, and early preliminary reporting of the younger half of Gen Z shows that they are far, far, far more based in the younger half of our generation than any of us on the upper end are. So the more of us that continue to grow up and become eligible for the midterms next time, for the next presidential election, I want you to know the future is in very, very, very good hands with Gen Z at the helm, because we understand, we live through this every day, that this is about so much more than who your favorite singer or celebrity influencer happened to endorse and what's trendy and cool in America to follow just because you're young. In fact, we are sick and tired of being pandered to and just blatantly assumed that if we're under the age of 30, we're going to be overwhelming socialists just because we are young. Instead, the radically cool, rebellious, countercultural punk rock thing to do today for young people is to embrace conservative values. And that is exactly what we saw with the youth vote last night. If nothing else came out as a victory last night, that alone is worth a massive celebration. And it seems that most other people in my peer group seem to feel the same way, because I woke up this morning and was very, very happily greeted by tons of videos on my TikTok For You page from the heart of America's college campuses and young people celebrating this exciting victory that they got a chance to participate in. Watch these and tell me you don't have hope for the future.
America!
Oh, we'll start it over. Here we go. This was at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. Look at the number of people out celebrating. Tell me that doesn't give you insane hope.
Yeah!
I was just at Liberty not long ago, and it's like that all the time. This is at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. Listen.
For the ramparts we walk, worth of galaxy.
Grand Canyon University, man. The kids were all about it. I love this so much.
That I love is falling.
Grand Canyon.
A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back.
This is like the biggest party I ever could have
Big
seen.
black eye. Man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list. And a statue of Liberty started shaking her fist. And an eagle will fly.
Auburn University had several of these videos as well. Across the SEC, we saw tons of support for Donald Trump among Gen Z. Classic.
God bless the USA.
Out in your PJs. This is at Auburn University. They rolled Toomer's Corner and then gathered to sing the national anthem together. Listen to this. And of course, the Gen Z members of the military
I just
are
got
supporting.
3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine.
Heck yes. Tell me you don't have overwhelming hope for Gen Z seeing this content all over social media. The mainstream media will never show you that. Because they'll have to admit that they were wrong. That they can no longer peddle the empty, hollow, pathetic lie that young people are always going to be leftists just because they're young. And it turns out when Kamala Harris says all young people are stupid just because they are young, that's probably going to backfire. Similarly, when she went out of her way on numerous occasions this election cycle to attack, I don't know, the Catholic vote, that also happened to massively backfire. The Washington Post's preliminary exit polls show that Trump won the national Catholic vote by a 15-point vote margin, 56% to 41%. That is a massive, massive significance compared to 4 years ago, a 10-point swing in favor of Trump from 2020 to 2024. Almost like denying Jesus in front of thousands of people at your rally and suggesting anyone who believes that Christ is king is at the wrong rally is going to backfire at your own event. And we can apply the exact same voter analysis to any of the other pathetic insults and ridiculous labels that were honestly slanderous that were hurled at Donald Trump or any of his supporters or anyone even on the fence during this election cycle, whether it was calling Trump literally Hitler like a week ago, calling anyone who supports him Nazis and saying that if you were at the Madison Square Garden rally, you went to a Nazi rally, that were all pieces of garbage, which ended up turning into an amazing TikTok trend in and of itself. So incidentally, that worked out. But when you attack Americans, key takeaway number 1 from this election, based on their God-given identity or their most sacredly held values, it is going to massively, massively backfire. Key takeaway 2 I want to share with you is that we can never, ever underestimate Americans' ability to be optimistic about our future when our future is in our own hands. My mom texted our family group chat this morning, something absolutely adorable, and it was very sweet, but I actually had never heard this quote before. She pulled it from Thomas Jefferson, and it really has resonated with me today. It's been bouncing around in my head for several hours at this point, and I really want to read this to you because I hope it'll make you think about our country in an entirely new way and through a new lens. From Thomas Jefferson: Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. That whenever things get so far wrong as to attract their notice, they may be relied on to set them right. Ooh, chills. Tommy J coming back in for the slam dunk on America's founding principles. But it's true today when the American people know better. And thankfully, because of the venue of social media, the American people do know better. It is impossible to hide from the truth, which conveniently the current people in positions of power like to label misinformation that they'd like to prosecute you for. Thank God that's not going to happen in a mere matter of months. I was already thinking about what the gulag would be like. But when the people are well informed, we do know better. We do know better, and we can be trusted with our own government. We know when things have gone too far, when wrong has become right, when lies have become truth, and when it's up to us to right the ship. And right the ship we did last night. Not just delivering a victory for Donald Trump for the White House, but for a majority in the Senate, a majority in the House, for down ballot initiatives all across the United States. We are talking about a blowout equal to winning the national popular vote last night because Americans knew better. I know we have a huge international audience that watches the show and interacts with all of our content on social media. And I know that's true of really everything happening in the conservative movement right now, because really what we're facing in terms of our culture war is not so different in America as it is from what you guys are facing in Europe, in South America, in Australia and New Zealand, in Canada, and across the world. And I wanted to share this tweet thread with you because it gave me chills this morning, realizing how aptly this describes the American spirit and what makes our culture war a little bit unique in our ability to fight it on offense ourselves. Konstantin Kisin, British commentator who I absolutely love, put out a fascinating tweet late last night or early this morning. It was early this morning, to explain to his British and European friends who are shocked and surprised that this happened, who Americans really are and why we easily could have seen this coming. Listen to this. This will give you chills. For my British and European friends who are shocked and surprised, here are the 10 reasons you didn't see this coming. 1, Americans love their country and want it to be the best in the world. That's true, whether you are on the left or the right or anywhere in between. America is a nation of people who conquered a continent. They love strength. They love winning. And any leader who appeals to that has an automatic advantage. Controversially, if you are not appealing to that and you are profusely apologizing for America's existence, you're probably going to struggle to obtain the support of the American people. 2, unlike Europeans, Americans have not accepted managed decline. They don't have net zero here. They believe in producing their own energy and making it as cheap as possible because they know that their prosperity depends upon it. 3, prices for the most basic goods in the U.S. have increased rapidly and are sky high. What the official statistics say about inflation and the reality of people's lives are not the same. 4, this is a big one. Unlike you, Americans, even most on the left, do not believe in socialism. They believe in meritocracy. They don't care about the super rich being super rich because they know that they live in a country where being super rich is available to anyone with the talent and drive to make it. They don't resent success. They celebrate it. 5, Americans are the most pro-immigration people in the world. Read that again. Seriously, read that again. Americans love an immigrant success story. They want more talented immigrants to come to America, but they refuse to accept people coming illegally. They believe in having a border. 6, Americans are sensitive about racial issues and their country's imperfect history. They believe that those who are disadvantaged by the circumstances of their birth should be given the opportunity to succeed. What they reject, however, is the idea that in order to address the errors of the past, new errors must be made. DEI is racist. Period, full stop. They know it, and they reject it precisely because they are not racists. 7, Americans are the most philo-Semitic nation on earth. October 7th and the pro-Hamas's left's reaction shocked them to their very core because, among other things, they remember, many of us remember, what 9/11 was like, and they know jihad when they see it. 8, Americans are an extremely practical people. They care about what works, not what sounds good. In Europe, we produce great writers and intellectuals. In America, they produce and attract great engineers, businessmen, and investors. Because of this, they care less about Trump's rhetoric than you do and more about his policies than you do. Very apt description. Number 9, this is my favorite one by far. Americans are a deeply optimistic people. They hate negativity. The woke view of American history as a series of evil for which they must eternally apologize is utterly abhorrent to them. They believe in moving forward together, not endlessly obsessing about the past. We're going to come back to this one in a second. 10, America is a country whose founding story is one of resistance to government overreach. They loathe unnecessary restrictions, regulations, and control, and they understand that freedom comes with the price of self-reliance, and they pay it gladly. Going back to this number 9 concept, I think we have forgotten that by nature, we are an optimistic people. We believe in producing a better future because we are willing to work hard for it. We believe that every generation has the opportunity to have a better life than the one who came before it. This is baked into the American dream itself. And we do believe in unity. We are a United States of America. We have forgotten that over the past couple of years because everything has been so incessantly divisive, hateful, vitriolic, angry, and violent that it has felt very doom and gloom, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. We're just going to give up on the United States now, and it's not even worth us putting the effort in anymore. But we are an optimistic people. That's who we were born to be. And it is amazing that this is such a beautiful explanation that most people don't understand. We do believe in moving forward together instead of endlessly obsessing about the past. I don't think I ever could have dreamt up a smaller, more succinct, perfect answer to what happened last night than that. Because Americans over the last few weeks saw a very clear dichotomy of choice in this election. We saw a choice of a Kamala Harris ticket that really didn't have any policies. To borrow a phrase from Donald Trump, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. She had no plan, okay? What she did have was incessant rhetoric about how Donald Trump is literally Hitler, about how women are going to literally die if Donald Trump becomes president because of Project 2025, about how anyone who supports him is an evil Nazi going to Nazi rallies. But she didn't have a vision for the future of America in which we could come together. Conversely, Donald Trump formed a unity party, maybe for the first time to this extent in American history, of Americans from all walks of life, from all political backgrounds, from literally every point along the political spectrum, who disagree about a whole lot of different things, but who believe in the concept that we can work together, we can move together forward for a future America that we are all proud to call home again. It is highly important we remember going into the future that we cannot underestimate Americans' ability to be optimistic about our future when we are given the control of our future. When we don't rely upon the government or the media or celebrities or anybody else to give us the keys to our own kingdom of the future, that we can build that ourselves together. And the optimism of the Unity Party absolutely crushed into dust the Kamala Harris rhetoric of wah, 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 Donald Trump is literally Hitler. Key takeaway 3, let's talk about the elephant that's apparently not in the room for a minute. Abortion. No one expected the results that we saw last night because of the constant fear-mongering, straight-up propaganda and lies that we have covered quite extensively on the show the last several months, and the amount of money that was poured into this election related to abortion specifically. Women, it turns out, weren't solely motivated to vote in this election or to pick their preferred candidate by the supposed right to kill their child. Shocking, I know. Running on late-term abortion being accessible for any reason or no reason whatsoever across the United States for any reason whatsoever turned out to not be a very popular position to run on, Kamala Harris, which, again, if you've been listening for a few months, we've covered this extensively, that 9 in 10 voters under 45 support at least some restrictions on abortion. 90% of the country, particularly young voters, is staunchly, abhorrently juxtaposed to what the platform Kamala Harris was running on when it comes to abortion. So it turns out that a very, very, very narrow majority of all women across all demographics supported Harris, but a majority, 52% of white women voted for Trump yesterday. And this gets even more interesting when you start breaking down voter demographics by marital status in the United States. It turns out when you look at men and women, separately and together, there are 3 demographics that overwhelmingly vote Republican historically in America. Married men, unmarried men, unsurprising based on what the media may tell you, and married women, which if you do the math, because there are, in fact, only 2 genders, the only remaining demographic not in these 3 is unmarried women. All 3 of these, married men, unmarried men, and married women, overwhelmingly support the Republican Party in recent history. Only unmarried women tend to support the Democrat Party, which clearly was the strategy from the Kamala Harris campaign to tap into these women specifically and run on unfettered all-access abortion, period, full stop, which turned out to not be quite as popular as they were expecting it to be. I think that's incredibly telling, by the way, about why we are fighting for culture and not just politics in America. It's why I'm fighting so hard to encourage other people my age to fall in love and get married because, A, it's amazing and you're going to be much, much happier in your life. I am so much happier in the few months that I've been married to my husband than I ever have been in my personal dating life, ever. It is a level of love that I never, ever thought was even possible to experience. It would be like seeing a color for the first time that you didn't know existed. It's hard to explain. And we talked about that right after our wedding as well. But statistically, it's been proven that married women are the happiest demographic of people on the face of the planet. So I'm really, really trying to get Gen Z women to fall in love with marriage again. But this is why culture matters, because when we fight for marriage, that impacts the outcome of elections and everything else down the line as well. Interestingly, everybody today is throwing a bit of a fun poke the bear party at all of the meltdowns on social media. We are, in fact, about to watch some potentially funny videos, but we're not watching these for the sake of laughing at people who are genuinely afraid in this country. It's a totally different approach, and I want to set the stage for that in particular. Of that sole demographic that seems to be dominated and controlled by the left, unmarried women, the damage that the left and the pro-abortion lobby has been able to inflict upon unmarried women in a very short period of time in American history is unlike anything I've ever seen. And some of these videos, again, are comical. You can feel free to laugh in the live chat, but I want you to think bigger picture about just how powerful culture is when we don't go where culture is and try to change it from the inside out. These are a mere tiny sampling of the videos I am seeing across my TikTok For You page this morning.
Sick to my stomach.
From women everywhere freaking out about the future of America and their ability to even survive within it.
What is wrong with you? I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach. What has happened to America? What has happened to democracy? What has happened to freedom? I'm done. This is a message to anyone who follows me. If you voted for Trump, unfollow me and block me. If you didn't vote, unfollow me and block me. The fact that it's this close means I've lost all hope in the American people. Like, it should not be this close. Why would anyone vote for this person? He's so evil. He's so demented. Kamala's not perfect. We all know that. We all know that. She is not a convicted felon, rapist, crazy, fascist, dictator, psycho.
Did you guys keep track of all of those crazy rapist, dictator, fascist, psycho? There was probably a few more in there. I watch these videos and I actually feel really bad for these girls because genuinely they have been programmed so effectively to believe that the world is over. That the world is literally over today. But it gets more interesting. Much, much more interesting.
Sorry. No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
I feel bad. I feel really bad. This country has a serious mental health problem. And this one actually hit really home for me. I've had obviously lots of friends walk in and out of my life over the years because of politics, but listen to this response to lifelong best friends of 14 years happening to vote differently. This is how successful the programming is, getting women to believe that anything remotely associated with Donald Trump must be purged from their life or they literally will not be able to survive.
Texted my best friend of 14 years, literally half of my life. I'm 28, and I asked them who they voted for. They said Donald Trump, and they said, I'm assuming you voted the opposite, and I said yes. And then my friend texted me and said, will you still be my friend?
Breathe, girl. It's okay.
Half of my life. This person is my best friend.
She just can't do it, I guess. It's just not happening for her. Things get really, really interesting when a new trend starts taking off this morning all over TikTok and other forms of social media as well, called the 4B movement. If you guys haven't seen these videos, prepare yourselves. But I started going down this rabbit hole this morning because I saw a tweet that sparked my interest, and I had to share it as soon as possible with the world. Solita says on Twitter, ladies, and this is dead serious. This is not parody. This is not satire. This is how deep the conditioning and the propagandizing goes for this demographic of unmarried women from the abortion lobby and the radical left. Ladies, I'm being so for real when I say this. It's time to close off your wombs to males. Don't laugh. This election proves now more than ever that they hate us and hate us proudly. Do not reward them. I am very much a radical feminist. I just don't talk about it very much, but I am literally so serious. I'm so serious. Guard your womb. Seriously. If you choose to be with a male, I'm sorry. I'm getting there. I'm trying really hard not to laugh because I do feel bad people are this brainwashed. But if you choose to be with a male, make sure he actually values and respects you as an effing human being. This is ridiculous. So, quick questions. Up until now, have we not been ensuring that the men we let sleep with us actually value and respect us as human beings? Has that not remotely been in consideration up to this point? So I see this tweet. It goes mega viral all over Twitter. Everybody's reacting to it. I'm like, there's a good chuckle for you. Who knew it would take Kamala Harris running on all access abortion for people to realize that abstinence is in fact trendy again? That if you close your womb off until you find a man who actually values and respects you, you probably won't have to worry about abortion being a normal part of your life. Shocking how that information works. Yes, same page. Bingo. Totally support the very roundabout way of thinking. It's like a math problem where they did it wrong, but they ended up getting to the right answer. But then I see this concept go bonkers viral all over TikTok with the start of this new movement called the 4B movement. So I guess liberal unmarried women everywhere are making a pledge starting now through the next 4 years to be celibate and to not engage in any sort of romantic relationships with men because of abortion. And specifically because they are afraid that Donald Trump is going to institute a national abortion ban, which, as we know, Donald Trump has repeatedly said is not something that he specifically supports, is something that he probably would veto. Also, chat, I don't know what 4B stands for. Everybody's asking me what it stands for. If anybody knows, please drop it in the chat. I've been so curious about this all day. I have no understanding of what 4B actually stands for. But like this woman, she's doing her part this morning as an American woman by breaking up with her Republican boyfriend last night and officially joining the 4B movement this morning. And you can think that this is satire. This video had literally tens of thousands of comments from other women saying, I've been celibate for 5 years and now I have a boyfriend who actually thinks my cat is his kid and we never have to worry about having a baby. I'm dead serious. This is not satire whatsoever. I do know the movement started in South Korea. Chat is letting me know that right now. But does anybody know what 4B actually stands for? I would be fascinated. Gavin says, I can only think of Furbies, the toys. Those things, side note, totally freaked me out when I was a kid. Like, totally freaked me out. But watch this movement start to take shape in America with the only demographic generally controlled by the left, unmarried women. Not satire.
No, I can't be the only one who woke up this morning thinking, about to book that hysterectomy. Y'all not about to Handmaid's Tale me.
Not only are we not having sex, women are voluntarily booking their own hysterectomies. They are voluntarily castrating themselves, removing their uterus, because they are so terrified by the propaganda of the abortion industry that pregnancy is going to kill them. All of the comments on this video are, I only have one ovary, or I have an autoimmune disease, and so I'm already going to have a high-risk pregnancy, and I literally can't risk being pregnant, or I will die. So I guess I need to have a hysterectomy. That is the level of derangement because of how successful the propaganda has been. And this matters. I'm going to come back full circle to this and how we combat this. This matters because only one side has been able to dominate the conversation entirely. This young woman says, how is everyone on this train platform just commuting to work as if nothing happened? I feel truly sickened that I have to carry on when, and these people genuinely believe this, when thousands of women are now going to die and queer people are going to be treated as subhuman by our racist, white supremacist, convicted felon president. This will never feel okay.
All day, every day, therapist, mother, maid, nymph, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an appendage, live to attend him, so...
I'm gonna be honest, I was very blindsided by the results this morning. I've decided that cigarettes don't count today, and I honestly might go get a tattoo. But I also have decided that for the next 4 years, I am going to abstain from schmex with men. And funny enough, I actually just broke up with my boyfriend a handful of days before the election, and it had nothing to do with the anticipation of Donald Trump winning this election. It had everything to do with problems within our relationship and massive differences between who we were as people, which was unfortunate and sad. I wish him well, though. But yeah, as a woman, my bodily autonomy matters, and this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that.
My bodily autonomy matters, and choosing to be abstinent is my way to exercise my bodily autonomy. Is the irony not incredibly obvious to everyone in this conversation? Because that's literally what we've all been saying the whole time. The whole time. Hi, Megan in the chat. Yes, this is actually live. The whole point is that if you don't want to have a baby, if you're not prepared to have a baby, then don't have sex. Which is a brand new revelation for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of women today, apparently. As we know from Twitter, until you find a man who actually values and respects you. Oh, the irony, the irony, the irony, the irony, the irony. It's painful.
So I highly encourage any other women that are single and care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy to do the same.
Great.
Delete your dating apps, because
great. Also,
we can
what
come
we've been
together
saying.
in community, and if you need somebody to cuddle or hold your hand or give you a kiss, I bet you one of your girlfriends would do it, okay? And you don't even have to really be gay, okay? It's okay.
So I guess we're all just going to be quasi-lesbians now.
Okay to have a lot of platonic love for the next 4 years. I think we can look to South Korea and the 4B movement as a point of inspiration for us women in America right now, because I'm astounded that we still don't have a woman president. And I'm very disappointed. But funny enough, as an American, I don't think that Donald Trump stole the election. I don't. It's just a reminder that we have to pay very close attention right now to legislation that's going to be written and ushered to be passed through and signed into law. We have to show up for these protests that we care about when it comes to, like, no more cop cities and really, again, fighting the good fight. We still need to do boycotts for these large corporations that are Zionists. Like, there's still so much work, no matter who's in office, to do to fix this country. And
you guys are letting me know in the chat that Kamala is actually conceding live right now. So we're going to pull this up and live react to it. I'm very curious what she's going to have to say. This is live as we are watching it, to my knowledge.
And as long as we keep fighting.
I'll get the volume up.
To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future.
Did we have united love for our country, though?
And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Wow.
A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny.
She sounds like she's about to cry.
Anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best.
Did she say we owe loyalty to the Constitution? That's just now sinking in. Didn't she just say the Constitution was like a problem for free speech?
Where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations. Where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do.
Which they don't.
We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld.
Oh, really?
And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, But like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And
The joy's
fight
back.
for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching,
Who are apparently not stupid
it
now.
is- I love you, Heather. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed. But
Dude,
please
you
know
barely won, young people.
on the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before.
It's actually a very well-written speech, interestingly.
You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
Maybe she watched our stream last night.
This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service.
Optimism, faith, truth, and service. We're going to talk about those 4 words here in a second.
H-U. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
There you go. So Kamala Harris has officially, publicly conceded the election of the United States. That just happened live, specifically saying we're going to keep fighting for optimism, faith, hope. I don't even remember the 4th one. Okay, that's new. I think we would be having a much different conversation today about the outcome of the election if that had actually been the vibes of your entire campaign this entire time, instead of attacking Optimism of the Unity Party and calling those people Nazis, instead of attacking faith by saying people of faith are at the wrong rally when they come to support you, apparently she now owes allegiance to the Constitution and God, which we won't need to unpack. But there you go. Kamala Harris has officially conceded. I've got one more clip I really want to show you about how deep the propaganda from women like Kamala Harris goes toward young women in America, and why I think Kamala Harris actually aptly described this. So many people think we are entering into a dark age. This is how TikTok is responding to the 2024 election, particularly unmarried women TikTok, that they are entering the 4B movement by refusing to have sex with men or romantic relationships with men because they are afraid Donald Trump is going to institute a national abortion ban. Let's finish this clip up and then we'll talk about what it means.
We can do it. We just can't give up. We have to keep going. So, sending love. I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette.
Just woke up this morning feeling spicy. You guys feel spicy? Because I do. All right. I don't know how to use this thing. Let's see what happens. Is this cutting off hair?
You too can shave your head
right?
in defiance of Donald Trump.
It's getting hair. Let's see here. Maybe I gotta cut it. Here we go. Have I given up on America? Yeah. I've also given up on coloring this hair because, right? Fuck coloring my hair. Fuck having my hair be long and luxurious. Fuck all that shit. Fuck being skinny. Fuck being hot. Fuck being all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be. Because clearly, they don't give a shit about us. And I'm talking to you too. Those of you ladies who have the internalized misogyny required to do what you did. Minorities who are so scared of a woman in power that you'd rather cozy up to the white man just in case some crumbs fall off his plate.
Racist. What?
Yes, scraps. I don't know how to work this thing, but I'm on my way. I'm gonna figure it out. Let's just do some cutting. You know why? Because this is taking too long. Here we go. Short hair we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We're cutting it off because fuck you. That's why. You think I'm crazy? Me too. Crazy. Just like all the women before me who were crazy. So fucking crazy. You know what? It's been a day. It's been a year. It's been 9 years, 8 years, whatever it may be. Around this time, 8 years ago, it's one of the worst times of my life. That's when my life fell apart. Not because of this. Don't get too excited. I'm just talking about regular life stuff I talk about on here. But trust me, I understand. I've heard the message loud and clear. We all have. Now, women are going to have to just refuse to participate. Sorry, if you're a man, I will not be responding to you. If you are a man, I will not be talking to you. I am going to be promoting the 4B movement from here on out. Care. I don't care. Get better scissors. My hair. Cutting it all off. Probably painting a target on my back here, but whatever. At least I live in a state right now that has some of our rights still. And we voted out Brandon Williams. Fuck that guy. Back to Texas. From whence he came. We also voted yes on Prop 1, which will codify into law some equal right protections in the New York State Constitution. So we did that at least. I don't know what the other fuckers are doing, but I don't know, man. We are embarrassing on the world stage. Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. Seriously? Oh, I've never had short hair before. Ever. It's kind of fun. All right, we're just going to keep chopping away here because this is literally going to take forever if I don't. Cut all the hair off. You know why? I'm not going to dye it anymore. I'm going to try and grow it out anymore. I'm not going to style it anymore. Fucking done. I will not be giving my money to the beauty industry anymore. I will not be giving my money to anyone that helps support misogyny and the patriarchy and keeping women down and making women think that we need to look a certain way or be a certain way or fuck you. Fuck you. Women, fucking stop dating men. Stop having sex with men. Stop talking to men. Divorce your husbands. Leave your fucking boyfriends. Leave them. They don't give a shit about you. And I promise you, come over to this side. I will bake cookies. I will shave your head if you want me to, depending on how this turns out. Do a little more trimming before we buzz it. Where's my chop it? Cut my hair before. It's like, oh, don't cut your own hair. All right. When people tell me I can't do something, I want to fucking do it. Just entering my middle-aged mom era. About to get the.
What is?
So, divorce your husbands and leave your boyfriends and never speak to men again because Donald Trump won the presidency last night. at least these people are being reasonable, I guess. But I'm not exaggerating that hundreds of these videos came across my For You page from women of all walks of life, of all age groups, across the political spectrum. Like, the unmarried women are not okay in America today. And it's funny and comical and ridiculous and the most unhinged behavior I think I've ever seen. Far more than no in the construction vest in 2016. But I actually think it's profoundly sad and incredibly indicative of the work that we need to do moving forward to reach that last demographic that is not dominated by the left, unmarried women, with the truth, because women can handle the truth. I have that above me literally every day. You can handle the truth. Instead of this blatant propaganda fear-mongering that we've seen from the pro-abortion lobby and the radical left to make women believe they are going to literally die if they get pregnant in the United States of America. On one hand, we're probably going to outbreed all of these people, which is great, and we should be making more babies and getting married and doing all of the right things, yes. But I want more for these women than the lies that they have been told from culture. And I say all the time, we can never change culture unless we are willing to go into the heart of it, tell the truth, and change culture from the inside out, which interestingly has just really started to happen from a political side with the pro-life movement in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned in 2022. Last night, I told you that I was going to be keeping an eye on 10 specific states across the country that have abortion on the ballot this particular year. And it was a shocking result really across the board in several different places last night. Sadly, many states like my original home state of Colorado did vote to constitutionally create a right for a woman to an abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy, and sneakily hidden in the language of that constitutional amendment was taxpayer funding for abortions. And many other states across the country, of those 10, made the same decision. But there were 3 states in America who were unapologetic and courageous enough for their conservative leadership to go into the heart of culture and change it from the inside out, to tell the truth to women being propagandized and lying to, because they deserve the truth. If we really love people, we should be telling them the truth first and foremost, to say, this is not empowering. This is not pro-women. This is not healthcare. This is not human rights. This is the perversion and opposite manipulation of human rights to take away our most basic human rights, the right to life, from the most innocent people among us. And I think up until now, particularly the Republican Party's approach, and even still now, depending on who you're asking, the Republican Party's approach to the entire conversation around abortion, we've talked about this a lot, has been zip it. Don't say anything. Don't acknowledge it. Don't answer any questions about it. Nervously laugh if somebody asks you about it, and then move on, because we don't want to say anything that could be possibly, potentially controversial and could get clipped by the left, and they can run with it and say that we're all of these evil radical people. No. The true radical position in 2024, and it showed last night, is that of Kamala Harris, is of ignoring 90% of the American voter demographic under the age of 45 who support restrictions, at least some of them, on abortion, and try to say that women are going to literally die if they get pregnant. To say because of that, we need abortion and infanticide at any time for any reason, simply because your child is an inconvenience to you. That is extreme. But telling the truth about abortion, in fact, is not extreme. It's doing what's right, even when it's hard. And if you look at those 10 states that had abortion on the ballot for state constitutional amendments or overturning particular state laws, etc., you can look at a state like Arizona that broke for Donald Trump, is breaking for Donald Trump. They have yet to call it, to my knowledge, although let's refresh our map here. Correct. They have yet to call it for Donald Trump, but also overwhelmingly voted to codify abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy in the state of Arizona. I can tell you this. I know a lot of the people who run the Republican Party in the state of Arizona. I lived there for about 3 years before we moved to Florida. No one is willing to talk about abortion. It is the same age-old, generational Republican Party approach to the abortion conversation. Zip it, shut up, sit down, pretend nobody asked you about it because we don't want to alienate anybody. And they overwhelmingly endorsed a right to an abortion in the state of Arizona yesterday through all 9 months of pregnancy for a state that elected Donald Trump. But conversely, if you look at Florida, for example, where I happen to be sitting right now, I moved here about a year and a half ago. Florida, with the third largest population by state in the country, defeated resoundingly last night Amendment 4, which was a ballot initiative on our state ballots here in Florida that would have overturned the 6-week heartbeat abortion bill that was passed just after the Dobbs decision here in Florida and has saved countless lives for preborn children here in the state. Resoundingly defeated in Florida, despite every pollster and every commercial in the state for the last several months telling us Amendment 4 was going to pass, because Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott and all of the Republican elected officials in Florida had the guts to go out and say this is wrong. That is not who we are. We are better than that in Florida. Nebraska overwhelmingly defeated their abortion ballot initiative. South Dakota overwhelmingly defeated their ballot initiative on abortion. So this idea that the voters, the American electorate, is overwhelmingly pro-abortion, and they will go to the ends of the earth to codify Roe or to codify any right to an abortion whenever it hits their ballot, that's a perversion of the truth. In reality, Americans are attracted to the truth. But if only one side of the conversation shows up to the narrative, if only one side of the conversation is even told to the American electorate, then we never get the opportunity to even flesh out the truth to begin with. When Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota showed up to unapologetically fight against evil, evil was defeated. But when they were silent about it in states like Arizona, lessons learned. No longer can the Republican Party pretend social issues don't drive people's behavior, for better or for worse, and try to stay out of them solely to run for the economy. These conversations matter. They matter because young women shouldn't be this brainwashed to think that they are never allowed to touch or speak to or make eye contact with another man ever again, or they are literally going to die. I want more for young women than that because I love women. I want more for all of us than that. But it also matters in elections because we saw a very clear dichotomy last night. When you are willing to say the hard thing, to speak the truth in love, to want more for our country than the shallow, hollow, propagandized lies of the abortion industry, people are smart enough to make the right choice. Goes back to that Thomas Jefferson quote we talked about earlier on the show. When people are informed, when the American people know better, they will make the right choice. But you have to give them the opportunity to have the conversation to begin with. One last key takeaway to share from yesterday's historic election for Donald Trump, and it's just a fun one that I just want to put out there into the universe. A few key people deserve massive credit for this election. Not that they are seeking it, and I'm sure they would be embarrassed if we credited them with a lot of this stuff because they really don't care who gets the credit for stuff like this. But there are a few key people who deserve our resounding thanks and praise. First and foremost, Scott Presler. If you guys aren't following Scott Presler, please take the time to follow him today. This is a man who has sought zero recognition for his actions over the last several years, but is single-handedly responsible for turning Pennsylvania into a bulwark of support for Donald Trump. This man has knocked on more doors than any other person in America combined and has gone out of his way to register as many people to vote as humanly possible. He deserves the Medal of Freedom as far as I'm concerned. So Scott Presler, thank you. We would not have had this election without you. Charlie Kirk, thank you for the work that you've done for years and years and years on the youth front, the youth engagement front, but particularly for this election, the rallies and tabling events that Turning Point USA has held on college campuses to get out the vote for young people and to create a cultural seismic shift happening with Generation Z that would not have been popular or even possible without Charlie Kirk and the work that they were doing on college campuses. And finally, you guys know I love him. I'm such a fangirl for him, but this election would not have remotely been possible if not for Vivek Ramaswamy. I love this man. Eventually, I will crawl over broken glass to vote for this man. We spent some time with him on the campaign trail in Iowa, and I want us to remember, a few people, but not very many, posted about this last night. Vivek Ramaswamy was quite literally the only person throughout the entire Republican primary field to demand that if we really want to win elections, we need a new direction of the party. That we need to understand America's very identity is in crisis, and we need to be talking about social issues, that Ronna McDaniel needs to resign her position from the Republican National Committee, and we need a new generation of leadership there, that we need to be engaging with young voters where they are, because young people are smart enough to figure this out on social media, for example. I have no doubt the rise in podcast interviews and social media coverage for this election largely had to do with input from Vivek Ramaswamy. He is the idea machine behind the next generation of the Republican Party and the American people and the political system that I love to follow so much. So Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you for putting yourself, your family, your reputation, everything on the line to help this become the unity party victory that we saw last night. All in all, it turns out we did not, in fact, just fall out of the coconut tree. And coincidentally, we as America will be unburdened by what has been come January 20th, 2025, which is something worth celebrating. But even more importantly than that, when I was watching at like 4 a.m., because it took forever, Donald Trump's acceptance speech last night up on stage at his election party here in South Florida, when I saw all of those people gather on that stage last night, this morning, I probably should say, I saw a new face of American politics. Not quite literally with Donald Trump. We know that that's a resurgence, although this does feel like a new Trump in many ways. But, and I won't even say the Trump campaign or the Republican Party. I'm saying I saw a new face of American politics up on that stage last night. I saw professional athletes and podcasters and people from the healthcare system and people from multiple different political parties and the most insane conglomerate of random individuals that had no business working together to link arm in arm to fight for a better future of our country, standing side by side saying it is time for us to get the hell to work. Not just for the Republican Party, but for people, for the American people. And I got goosebumps because what we have in front of us right now today is an opportunity to seize this cultural revolution that is happening. This is not about the difference between Republican or Democrat or right versus left or conservative or liberal. This is about people versus the machine. People versus the government. Individuals versus everyone trying to crush you under their big thumb. There is a cultural revolution happening before our very eyes, and we have a chance to have a 1776 style redefining of American culture and policy alike that will leave a legacy for generations to come, for my children, for my children's children, for their children, the same way that our founding fathers were convinced they could build a society the world had never seen before that would last for generations if we were smart enough and courageous enough to continue making it better. There is a new generation of leadership coming to America today, and I have absolute chills that this is actually really happening because it doesn't feel real, but all glory goes to God, truly, who had such mercy on our country last night, because when I looked at that lineup of courageous people, imperfect people, but people trying to do what's right up on that stage last night, I realized that we don't deserve this. We don't. We don't deserve this at all. We deserve the opposite of this. We deserve total condemnation. But this opportunity is a gift. So now it's time for us to just get to work. Here on the Isabel Brown Show, we are just getting started, getting to work today, tomorrow, and every day after. And I'm so grateful for all of you being in this community of truth seekers, of patriots, of people from all walks of life and all over the political spectrum, willing to stand up and tell the truth to a world that is rejecting that very concept. I meant it at the beginning of the show when I said it today. Next year is going to be 8 million times more impactful and bigger than this one. And we are spending the next several weeks busting our butts behind the scenes to make this show bigger and better than anything we've ever done with any of our content. I'm so excited that you guys are here along for the ride, especially if you are new today. Please do me a huge favor and smash that follow or subscribe button so that you can join us for every step of the journey. I love you guys. Make America great again. Keep dancing. And we will be back for the show tomorrow in a very, very promising new day for America.